Hey, good evening, everyone. It's yours truly, Tammy B. And I want to welcome and thank you, amazing people, for joining another session of Real Talk with Tammy B and Company, the show where we are recording live so that you can actively engage in the conversation via the YouTube chat. So if you're seeing this on Facebook, I won't be able to read your comments. So if you want to get active with us, go to YouTube at That's a Woman and you can comment there. And I am sure some information is going to be shared that you want to comment on tonight. So please, sir, please, ma'am, drop questions, comments into the chat so that we can share them with the broader audience. And before we get started, I do want to ask, if you are not part of our community, I invite you to join us by clicking the subscribe button because we are here weekly at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with new content. And as always, I'm grateful for you amazing people being with us, along with the Queens of Wisdom Wednesday. I have Miss P. Hey, Miss P.
Hi, Tammy and company.
Well, my company seems to be, well, Cola has sent word that she's going to be about 15 minutes late. So I'm sure she's going to be joining us as soon as she possibly can. And Shelly actually says he's going to be super, super late. So don't kill him. But we know Shelly get a little intimidated when the
Shelly Ashley will be very late.
oh, hold on. Look, you see these phones, they so nosy, was trying to read my text message out loud. So they're going to be with us shortly. How are you doing, Miss P?
Just fine. Did uh,
Good. And Miss Sylvia Standbag, welcome. How are you doing this evening, Queen?
Blacktastically. Yes, peace and love. And you're not showing up real clear.
right?
Sometimes you're frozen, Tammy.
Yeah, like right now.
Okay. So I'm on a horrible Wi-Fi connection. So I hope we can make this work. So I pray. So everybody forgive the technical difficulties. I'm at another place right now. So we're gonna make it do what it do. So hopefully there won't be any delays. So being that this is the start of a new month, I do want to wish everybody in the month of July happy birthday. So happy birthday to all born in the month of July. And I was doing some research. There were quite a few famous people born in the month of July. And also, disclaimer, I am getting over bronchitis, so my voice is a little raspy tonight. So work with me. I've been laid up for the last 4 or 5 days. So I'm glad to be with you people right now. So, but Princess Diana's birthday was in July. The actor Tom Cruise, Thurgood Marshall, Medgar Evers, Ida B. Wells, Robin Williams, and the man himself, Mr. Nelson Mandela. He was born in the month of July. So happy birthday to them all. And so, um, as we get ready to jump right in, because we have some really good information to share with you all tonight, and I don't want to prolong the time because I am going to have to cut it short around 9 o'clock. So I want to get as much info as we can. But before as for each of you, what is something you've recently learned that has changed your perspective?
Mm.
Miss P, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, but I don't see Sylvia.
I think we lost her. All right, while we're waiting, what's something that you have learned that has recently changed your perspective?
Are you talking to me or to your audience?
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you. You know, you got. I like to ask you guys icebreaker questions. So this
Yeah.
is a question that I wanted to ask you guys, ladies, tonight.
Well, I'm learning something every day that changes my perspective. And I read something yesterday, if I
Mm-hmm.
can remember. It went something like, um, ask Sylvia. I'm going to try and get this back because I really liked it. It really brought a lesson home to me yesterday. But anything, I know what it was. It says, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And
Ooh.
that changed a lot for me yesterday because right away I was able to put that particular principle to work with myself. You know,
Mm.
um, a lot of times, yeah, I see things the way I think they are, but
Mm-hmm.
they're really just the way that I see them.
Wow, that's deep because a lot of times that's exactly what's going on in the world around us. We have a perception that we make a reality, and that's how we
Mhm.
view things, even though it very well could be different from
Exactly.
what what is actually taking place. So I like that. I like that. Abuela, what's something you've learned recently that has changed your perspective?
I just learned recently uh, that you shouldn't buy bread from 7 particular stores because the bread is molded and poisonous. And I just found out 5 minutes ago. And
Oh,
they named the stores. You want to hear?
I sure do.
Okay, they said do not buy bread from Walmart, Target, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, and CVS. And I didn't get the other three because I had to come on the broadcast. But they're talking about how they're leaving the bread out in the heat, and people are getting molded bread, and the ingredients are not the way they say they are. So we got to be careful with that.
Oh, wow. See, that's why I was set to ask you ladies that question tonight, because that's some good information. Um, Good to know. I really don't think I ever buy bread from Walmart. I like Kroger's or Publix or something like that. Or I hope Costco's isn't on that. Well, no, I don't really buy bread from Costco's. But no, that thank you for that information. So everyone take heed. I guess their article is current, so you can find some more information about that.
It's
Okay,
on
so
you.
before
It's on YouTube. It's
okay,
mhm.
it's it's on YouTube. All right, guys, go do your research because we want you to be safe. I mean, I know back in the day or not even back in the day, I think they used mold to cure as a form of penicillin, but I really don't think you just want to. I don't think you just want to consume. I don't think you just want to consume molded bread.
I just want to say one quick thing.
Hmm.
Today is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday. Hold on. Hold on. I, I was trying to see if I could do my little cheering on my little thing, but I guess it's not going to allow me to do that. Oh, guys, drop in the chat. Happy birthday to Miss P. You looking fabulous, Queen. Oh my gosh, and you celebrate a birthday with one of my aunts. My aunt had her 63rd birthday today. So this is awesome. This is awesome. Cancer season.
Yes.
I knew that's look, you ooh, I'm into zodiacs and I love cancers. I seem to connect very well with cancers. So yes,
Oh,
yes, yes. Enjoy your day. I wish I was there to do something special for you, but I send you all kind of
thank
love.
you. Thank
And
you.
and knowing me says happy birthday, Queen P.
All
Yes,
right.
yes.
Till I said thanks.
She heard you. She heard you. Okay, so also before we dive in, so there are certain themes for the month. And so with it being July in the dead heat of summer, we know it is National Ice Cream Month. This is a great time for it. It's National Grill Month, and it is National Hot Dog Month. Hey,
Mhm.
Cola. I think we had her for a second. Okay, and so now this is interesting. So today, July 2nd, Miss P, which is your birthday, is also World UFO Day, which
Wow.
yeah, today is World UFO Day, and it's National Wildland Firefighter Day, which which brings to mind that we want to send our prayers and condolences to those affected by the intentional fires in Idaho to lure the firefighters out to kill them, in which the individual did take their own lives. So we definitely send our prayers and love and light to the people directly affected by that. And also just for mental health. People are struggling. So when people do things like that, we know there's probably an underlying mental health issue in that as well. So as we go ahead and jump right in, I saw Cola, but I think she paused us for a minute. Um, Cola, you want to say hi before we start our talk?
Hey, hey
Hey,
everybody.
Hey, Cola.
Hey, good to see everybody. Sorry
good
I'm
to
late.
see
Some
you,
sorry I'm late. Some
girl.
things went over, but you know how that goes.
Girl, you all good. I always appreciate you being here. And I was telling them my voice is raspy. Your girl been down with bronchitis for the last week, so I'm getting
Okay.
it together. But real
Okay.
quick, you know what? I'm just gonna ask you this question real quick, and we gonna jump into our talk. So I asked the queens
Okay.
this question: what's something you've learned recently that has changed your perspective?
Hmm. Um, an action step. I can go talk about an action step, and that is to set the tone of my day every morning. I've been used to doing it, but to do it I had gotten into how you get into the routine of just doing stuff. So I had gotten
Mm-hmm.
routine with it, but now I'm becoming more intentional. I have become intentional with setting the tone for my day. And what that means is doing it, going into intentional prayer.
Yes,
So
love
that's the
it.
action step that I've recently picked up. Yeah.
I love it. I love it because how you start your day is how your day play out. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what's my dude name? Whew, dang, I can't even think of his name. And I'm looking at his face, but he says even like before he goes to sleep at night, he says, he visualizes timelines in his life and he goes to sleep with that timeline on his mind
Yeah.
intentionally. And
Yeah.
he says he wakes up the next morning with that same thought pattern, like what
Yeah.
timeline do I want to live? What trajectory, how do I want my day to play out? And that's how he starts the vibrational frequency of his day.
Yeah.
Michael Beckwith, that's his name.
Michael Beckwith. Yeah.
Mhm,
Oldie but
mhm.
goodie.
Yes,
Yeah.
oldie but goodie. All
Yeah.
right, so listen, we're not gonna delay the time. Shelly said he's running super super late, so hopefully he'll be able to join us. But Cola, we already said last week he probably
Why
was.
did my psychic intuition tell me that?
We knew, we knew, but we gonna let him have that. I told you he was
Yeah.
gonna have a client, he was gonna have something. But real quick, Cola, I'm gonna ask you this question. We're gonna keep it brief. Did they give a
Okay.
verdict on the Diddy trial? I've seen things, but I've been out of touch.
I think he got off on racketeering and he got off on a lot. I think he got off on a lot and they were saying that he may be looking at serving anywhere from 4 to 7 years.
Okay, so he will be doing time, just
Maybe
making super
yeah,
super.
yeah. At least he's in
So they
he's in
still
that.
probably trying.
He got gosh, what was it? Sex trafficking? He got something. But I think the
Hmm.
time for that is like 4 to 7 years. So,
Okay.
and of course, if he appeals that, I don't know how that works, but I'm sure he can wiggle his way out of, with some good lawyers, probably wiggle his way out of that. But anyways,
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Okay. All right. So, Abuela, Miss P, we gonna jump right in because our topic tonight, when God was a woman, this right here. Woo! I'm ready. I'm ready. I hope you all in the chat are ready. Hey, if y'all want to hear this, say I'm ready. Drop it in the chat because we ready. Abuela, tell us where you want us to start.
Well, before I start, I'd like to give a shout out to Tevin, your son, for bringing up the fact that we should do this topic. Shout out to Tevin.
My
All
baby,
right.
my baby, my baby, my baby.
And we can get started if you like. We can get started with the video if you have it as an
Yes.
introduction.
Okay. So, all
listen,
right. So
y'all, are
for
you
anyone,
guys hearing an echo? Because I'm hearing an echo.
No.
it's raspy, but not necessarily an echo. I'm not hearing an echo. Mm-mm.
Okay, well maybe okay.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna shut down the YouTube chat. So guys, I can't hear you right now, but that's only for me to play this video because I would get all the feedback. So let me share my screen. And here's the
issue
video.
in the world, but we're dealing with Jamaica today when it concerns our women. Women in our traditions have always been sacred. Women have never been left out, and the woman as the mother is considered to be the first teacher. The mother is considered to be the first teacher of ancestral traditions. As early as a child is born, you will have issues with gripe and teething and all of those things. And the woman had to know the medicinal herbs and other practices, other spiritual practices to protect the baby from evil and harm and to heal the baby from various illnesses. And so the woman was always considered to be a holder of sacred knowledge, sacred information. In Jamaica, especially, women have always been fighters. They have always resisted colonization. We see that in Nanny. Nanny has always been the embodiment of feminine strength and uprightness here in Jamaica. Nanny is the only Jamaican female national hero. And it is because of her sacrifice as a mother, as a leader, as a priestess. When I say priestess, Nanny was like the Pope of Jamaica. She was the high priestess of Jamaica's traditional religion, Jamaica's first religion, which is Mayal. And so, in my opinion, based off of the trends that I have seen, it has been vitally important for the establishment to attack Jamaican women. And when I say attack, I don't just mean they're going out there to try to harm them physically, but everything has been pulling the woman away from her traditions. She is now caught up with all kinds of popular fads, etc. And no longer are women holding themselves to that high regal regard. Jamaican women used to have a royal bearing in how they dressed, in how they conducted themselves. And you find now that women are more interested, especially young women in this generation, are more interested in showing themselves off in order to gain money, to gain attention, to gain fame on social media, etc. So the question also mentioned the Sibyls. The Sibyls are an ancient female priesthood, priest class that covered the entire earth. Because originally, the the spiritual foundation of earth was based off of the matriarch, based off of the mother, based off of the woman. So even in Jamaica, we had a female-led or matrilineal priesthood that had strong women within it. But also, if a man were to become a priest in this priesthood, he would have inherited the gift from his mother's side. The Sibyls, or the female priesthood, or the matrilineal priesthood, also was very rooted in sacred water tradition. So here we are at the Blue Lagoon, which is a sacred site for Jamaican water reverence and water-based spiritual tradition. And the Sibyls, they have that position because of the waters of the womb. So the woman carried life within her, and that life was incubated within the water of the womb. So water has always been considered to be the embodiment of femininity. Water flows, it moves around in curves. Water is considered to be the embodiment of beauty. So just like how we have the Blue Lagoon here, we as a priesthood, as an indigenous priesthood, know that water is sacred because it represents femininity, because it represents healing, because it represents motherhood, because it represents the sacred woman. Water can be nurturing, it can be inviting, it can be healing. But just like a mother, water can change in the blink of an eye and get aggressive to protect her young, to protect her people. And this is what the colonizer wanted so badly to destroy, to dismantle. The sacred woman who would stand up to protect her community and to protect her people. So essentially,
That's enough.
Okay. All right. Wow. Any comments on what we just seen? And I'm bringing the other YouTube channel back up so I can see the chat.
She wanted to know if there are any comments on the video. Anybody have anything they want to say about it?
Mm-mm.
No,
No.
Okay.
that was deep. It was deep.
Okay.
And I like the analogy of the water. Like I never thought of that, with water. Now I do know salt water to be healing water, but just the fact that water is being, is nurturing and can get aggressive, which we know that that does happen. So I found that to be very interesting.
I think it's very interesting. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
Yes, we
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me? Oh,
Yes.
okay. I think it's very interesting, his video, and that there are now, uh, I would say, a good many people who are talking about the Sibyls. And for me, it's new, and things have come back to me, at least one thing in particular, which I'm not going to say anything about right now because I'm sure Sylvia is going to mention it. And when she does, then I will interject that one thing that I had personal experience with growing up.
Oh wow. Well, if she doesn't address that, you're going
I
to have to circle back and address that, ma'am,
I
because
will.
we want
I
to
will.
hear. All right.
Okay.
Wayla, where you want me to start?
We can start with the PowerPoint. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Let me.
And I want to ask you, you sisters, to please interject, make comments, interrupt me, because that keeps the conversation lively.
Could you repeat that about the conversation?
It keeps the conversation lively
Right, right,
if
right.
you make your comments. Feel
Right, right,
free.
right. Right.
We got you covered. We got
Mm-hmm.
you covered. All right. All right. You guys should be able to see it. All right. Can you see it? Miss Sylvia?
Not yet.
Really? It's
No,
showing
it
that I'm
seems to be.
okay, it's showing that I'm sharing.
I can see it on my end.
Miss P, can you see it?
I can.
Okay.
Ooh,
Oh, we lost her again. Okay, let's give her
yeah.
a moment.
I didn't know if she was saying she couldn't see it at all or it wasn't large enough. I don't know.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. Let's
Okay.
make it better. Let's try while we wait for her to return.
Okay.
Did that enhance it? Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna give Miss Sylvia a moment to rejoin us. Cause
Okay.
this a first where we're speechless after hearing that video. We usually don't
Really,
have.
you know what? I'm not really speechless. And I guess I should have said this then, but definitely in agreement with what he's saying. At least I can understand it.
Right.
Um, if it's true or not, I don't know, but I can certainly understand it because I have often wondered myself, why is it that women, not only do we have, of course, with the help of the man, we need the seed. We're the egg carriers, but we do need the seed to create life. But once conception has occurred, we hold the we hold the baby, we carry the embryo, we carry
Mm-hmm.
that fetus, we provide all the nutrients that that fetus needs. Once the fetus is born and it's now an infant, newborn infant, we have the breast milk to continue to feed it. It feeds off of our body. We can sustain life with or without the father. I mean, I'm not recommending that we do it without a dad. We believe in whole families, but we can
Mm-hmm.
sustain that life with the production of our breast milk from our bodies. And not only
Right.
that, in our breast milk, we have a special chemical called colostrum, which gives that newborn the natural antibiotics to be able to fight off diseases that babies who don't get the colostrum that they have to deal with. It helps build their immune system. It helps fight off ear infections. It helps fight off. It's an antiviral. It's an antibiotic, along with giving vitamins and nutrient and vitamins and minerals that will sustain them for life. Babies who don't get breastfed don't get this, but babies who get breastfed from their mothers, they get this colostrum, and it only lasts for a couple of weeks. But our bodies produce these type of antibodies and antivirals, minerals and vitamins for the infants that we house in our bodies. So with that being said, to me, being able to carry, being able to sustain life after from our body, and then being able to nurture emotionally, mentally, being able to get in that kitchen and make the magic happen, being able to create the herbal meds, like he said, like, and then if the child is left, most of the time the child is left with the mother if it doesn't work out with the dad. So the caretaking is still there. So with that being said, when I look at all of that, it just like, I'm like, men are put on a pedestal. We live in a very misogynistic society. Men are put on a pedestal, but what about the women? Because look at the ability of what the natural woman does.
Right.
Tammy, I don't know what's wrong with the technology on this side, but I'm gonna have to get started before it cuts off again. It's on my side.
Okay, all right. Here we go.
Yeah. So with all that being said, I agree with the guy and Miss Sylvia.
Okay, all right, all right.
Okay, to have a greater appreciation, I'm gonna just go on. To have a greater appreciation of womanhood, we must have a knowledge about the female and the matriarchy. If we don't have a knowledge about those things, we can't have appreciation for the female. We must also have a desire to seek and know more of the history of the great African mother. So, if while I'm doing
Okay.
it, eventually, if you could pull up the definitions, Ray Sibyls, that's the one that we need, not what you have there, Tammy. So what I'm going to do as a libation to the author of the book, The Sibyls, I'm going to read her bio. That's Mama Zobi. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read her because she deserves it. She wrote many, many great books to enlighten us. Mama Zobi's legal name is Vivian Hunter Hendrew, is a fully initiated high priestess of the Amenganisi ancestral Tichamba West African Voodoo Mama Wadi Ifa healing traditions. She resides in the United States, but she passed away in July 1922. Okay. She resides in the United States where she maintains her ancestral shrines and works full time as an Amaganisi voodoo priestess and godmother. Born from the womb of Mama Wati and the voodoo Mama Zobi's spiritual lineage descends directly from both sides of her maternal and paternal great-grandmothers and fathers, who were Mamawati and voodoo priests, captured and enslaved as hired out masons and carvers in Louisiana. So, Tammy, you can't pull up what I'm reading yet. Is she
What
there?
did you send it to me? This is
Yes, I did. That's the very first one that I sent. The very first one. This one is the second one.
Oh, you sent me.
Okay, I'm going to
Oh
keep
Lord.
reading.
Okay, hold on.
During slavery and Reconstruction, African descendants were forbidden to practice their ancestral religions. Many were persecuted and murdered. Such was the case in the family of Mama Zobi, where her great-grandfather, Prince Hunter, was killed in Natchitoches, I think that's leaving out, Louisiana. He was killed and tortured. Family lore recounts that he, refusing to convert to Christianity, was chased into a barn and set on fire.
Mm.
Okay. Over time, the voodoo tradition was forced underground, and a deliberate process of mockery and racist malignment began in the American media, religious, and educational institutions, creating some of the most perverse, undeserved, and enduring stereotypes of African religions, which was continued unabated until the present day. After more than 30 years of intense manifestational encounters and personal suffering, Mama Zobi received her first ceremonies in Togo, West Africa, Bahunan, Togo, and full initiations by Hanans Tobos, hope I pronounced their names right, Arita and Daniel Sosa in Togo, and the U.S. in 1996. She completed her final series of ceremonies as Chief Hanan Amenganisi in 2003-2005. As a full lineage
Okay, so
African
Dula,
American
wait,
priestess,
wait,
that's it. That's it. Mama Zobi is the
okay,
first
perfect.
to initiate many in the diaspora in Mama Wata. Okay, I haven't gotten there yet, Tammy. I'll get out, but that's where I want you to be. That's good.
Okay.
She is a graduate of Chinami University in Honolulu, Hawaii, with a BGS, that's a Bachelor of General Studies, and the Augusta State University in Georgia. She is world traveled, South America, France, Italy, Czechoslovakia, Germany, Austria, Mexico, Ghana. She has been traveling to Togo, West Africa, regularly since 1988. And when I say I just wanted to give a libation to Mama Zobi, is because she deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
Mama Zobi is the founder and president of the nonprofit Mama Wadi Healing Society. Somebody, somebody needs to cut the mic off. Mama Wadi Healing Society of North America. The OATH, which is an acronym for Organization of African Traditional Healers, which recently won a long overdue victory with the U.S. Library of Congress in changing the classification of African traditional religions from the historically degrading label of occult and Satanism to African spirituality and religion. And that was a great feat for her to get that done, because they always want to make our cultural beliefs occultic. So she was able to get that done. Her hopes that her 2-volume, well-researched book, Mama Wata, an ancient African god goddess unveiled, can be used as an instrument to shed much needed history and accurate knowledge on African ancient traditional religions and their crucial but long omitted role in laying the theological, ritual, and cultural foundation of major religions throughout the ancient world. So that's her great accomplishments. Um,
Okay.
and
Okay, I'm gonna
I
bring it back up. I took it down because you were reading.
and I wouldn't be surprised at anything that happens tonight, but I'm decreeing and declaring that we'll get through with this, because this is a very important message, and it's a message that hasn't been made prosaic knowledge. So I understand when things get funny. Okay. The Sibyls gave messages to the people directly from divine source. Africa was the home of the first great prophetess. They could call up the dead and the souls of the living and foretold the future. It is through the divine blood of the Sibyls that the patriarchal pharaohs, Hebrew prophets, and the Chaldean priests were born. Universally known as the Black Doves, the Sibyls referred to themselves as Sisters of Isis, the Prophetesses of the Black Diana, and the prophetesses of the Black Diana. The dove symbolized the Holy Spirit, a symbol later adopted by the Christian Church. The absence of African women as major players in the world, as opposed to men, has been problematic and disturbing. For the first time, her story is being revealed. And since this is the year 2025, the completion 9, this is the year when all of these things that we haven't heard before, you're going to begin to hear, and especially young people. Okay. I want to read something. Let's see. I want to read something. The first human worship was a female. Let me see if I can find that. Her book is so large. Let's see. Okay. This is from volume 2 of Mommy Wata Sibyls. The first human worshipped as an ancestress and god was a Black female. There is without a doubt a mounting body of genetic, archaeological, spiritual, and cultural evidence clearly indicated that the world's first biologically proven mother, the woman who gave birth and suckled the first human being, who uttered the first words "ma," meaning truth, and who invented the first tools of agriculture, constructed the first mode of shelter, painted the first scenes of prehistoric and religious life, performed the first ceremonial burial to the dead, built the first altar to the gods, who was instructed in the art of herbalism. She initiated the study of medicine, divine magic, by the earth's first guardian ancestress was none other than a Black jet woman. The first human ancestress worshipped as a god was a Black and female before the introduction of male deity. And I'm not going to read all of it, but one thing I do know, that initially the African pharaohs were given that accomplishment. They said these pharaohs invented archaeology. They invented astrology. They invented all the educational disciplines. Not so. The Sibyls invented all of those things. And why is it that the matriarch got credit for it? Because when the oppressed is overcome by the oppressor, their history is written out of existence. So I can't see where we are, but I'm going to just go on with it. But that is important, because I wondered why the patriarch was given credit for all those things. And even in our history books, the pharaohs, the African pharaohs, are given credit for all of this. So I had to spend 45 years re-educating myself, now going on 50 some, because everything I thought I knew was a lie.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Maybe I missed something, but who are the Sibyls?
I think, Tammy, you need to put that back up then. The Sibyls were the first females on planet Earth.
The first females. Okay.
Period. Okay. The first human beings on planet Earth were females, and they were the Black Sibyls. Okay? Know that sounds crazy, because we've been conditioned to a Western society who has lied to us from the very beginning.
It's been a whole lot of lies. So, I mean, you have to question everything, because there's been a lot of lies.
Yes. Yes. That is one reason why this is the year of the shift. We're finding out even that the mathematics we've been taught was the reverse of how we've been taught. The science is not correct. Okay? So all of these things are being revealed. Okay. All right. Any comments?
Wow.
So someone put in the chat, our history and original dialect has been erased.
Of course.
So
All of that. All of that. All of that. Yeah. So I just quickly did just a quick little search of the Sibyls. And for some reason it came up. I have Amazon.com. And then under that it has who are the Sibyls in the Bible. And according to this is still Western.
Okay,
I
but
know you're not wanting to focus on that.
I certainly don't. If you
No,
don't
no, no,
mind.
no, no. I'm not trying to create a. I'm not trying. I don't want to go back and forth. I just want to let me just. It's actually saying that the Sibyls were female seers from the ancient world whose prophecies it was taught foretold the coming of Christ. So what I'm saying is it may not line up. I'm not looking for just in that little. I'm not a one word type. Oh, I'm not a one sentence type of learner. It don't happen like that. But what I am showing is there's some validity to the Sibyls. That's all. That's the only thing I wanted to say from that. That's it.
Another thing that we're going to have to be aware of, the Chat GPT and AI. All
Mm-hmm.
they're, all they're going to do, Cola, is mimic the
Oh, I
line.
know. Yeah, definitely. What they do is it's just an overview of all the information online that they gather and summarize it up. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
There's let me see what I do with it. There's another book. Okay, this book. Can you see that? The Sibyl's Oraculum by Tanag. How to pronounce her name? Tayana Maquilla.
Okay.
Okay, and it's a brilliant and unique work on the research of ancient tradition of the oracles of the Sibyls and their true African origin. And the word oracle, it just means to speak. And the Sibyls has been defined as females that spoke directly from the source.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so that's what this is backing up what I'm looking at. But like I said, it's just in one sentence.
wow.
Okay.
Okay, so Abuela, do you
In
want
the
me to show any of this information that you sent, or you want to keep going in the vein that you're going? How you want
We
me
could
to
just
do it?
keep. Is it all right with you guys if you don't see it and I could just read it?
That's
Is it all
Go
fine.
right?
for it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just
all
wanted to
right.
say this. In the Bible,
Hmm.
Sibyls were referred to as witches. There is a story about the witch of Endor, which lines up with what Sylvia just read about. They were able to call up the dead. And so
Mm-hmm.
this particular story has to do with the prophet Samuel, who went to the witch of Endor to call up Saul to find out who the kingship should go to, and it was going to go to David. But yes, that's one particular story where the Sibyl was referred to as a witch.
And see, when she was reading, that's what I was wondering. Like, with a person like new, just hearing this for the first time, the first thing that goes through your mind is witchcraft. This is witchcraft, which of course that's something that we're not teaching or encouraging. So I just want us to be. I'm glad that you said that that's in the Bible and that's what happened.
Well, where she's going with this is how they took our teachings and turned it into something evil.
Like they
That's where
did.
she's
Absolutely.
going. They took our teachings and turned it into something evil.
And had
Absolutely.
us believe it was evil up
Yeah,
until today.
yeah.
Mm,
That's where she's going with
that's
that.
big. That's big because a
Because
Yeah.
we had our
lot of
own
stuff.
religions. We
Say that
had
Right.
our
again.
own religions. And
Right.
so when Western Christianity came into being, they said they would conquer the world through the Bible and the sword, which meant if you did not adopt Christianity, you would die. And that's exactly what the what do you call that time, Sylvia, when they were killing everybody, especially Africans? That's who they wanted to kill, who did not believe in this concept that they had created, called Western Christianity. The it was just on my tongue and it slipped
I
right
call
out.
it colonization.
That's yeah, colonization. Yeah.
Well, no, that's not the word I'm looking for. It was a
No.
particular war that they waged on people of the world at that time. The Inquisitions. The
Yeah,
Inquisition.
the Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition by the Spanish.
No,
You're not talking about by the Spanish?
no. I'm
Okay.
just
Well, I mean, because
that's
there was a
okay.
Spanish Inquisition.
That's okay. All I'm saying is that they were called the Inquisitions, and that might have been part of it. However, I'm talking about they were
Yeah.
given uh, the people who went out to kill with the Bible and the sword were given permission by the Pope. And he said anybody who did not embrace this particular way of thinking were savages and were to be killed.
Okay, I'm gonna jump around a bit.
Okay.
That sounds to me like the Nicene Conference of 325 AD, when Constantine got together a group of Africans and Europeans, because we are involved in everything, and said, look, the religion that they're practicing in ancient Kemet, in ancient Africa, is a good one, but we're going to take it, rearrange it, fit it into our society, and that's going to become the world religion.
That
Mhm.
happened as well, yeah. After this big dream he had, yeah.
Okay. There was a young lady, her name is Alexandra Bologna, a native of Rome, and having done extensive research on the African Sibyl from Libya and Ethiopia in connection to the traditions of the Black Madonna
Mm-hmm.
in the Mediterranean culture, found the research done by Tayana Maquilla, the book I just showed you, very informative and enlightening on a subject that is hardly ever spoken about today in Western society. This young woman's research shows that the true tradition of the powerful oracles was indeed African and not the common belief that the Sibyls were white. Because I had to spend weeks finding images, information that depicted the Sibyls as their true selves, African. Now, if you go to what people nickname God, Google, they're going to make you go through 300 pages before you found the truth. So I ended up having to use like Dogpile, DuckDuckGo. I prefer Dogpile search engine. So I wouldn't have to go through so much information to get some other resources. So they really want to hide this information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I bet you know why.
Yeah,
I
we
bet
know
you
why,
know
but
why.
but hold on. I wanna while it's on my mind. So when we talk about the topic when God was a woman, and you saying the original source, the black woman, the one who you talked about, when we had conversations earlier, you were saying how the women were empowered, and talk to us about go along the lines of that when you were saying how the women were basically in charge and the men were there to serve. Come on now. And you say the power was lost to the men because the women taught them the universal laws. I need you to go
Okay,
into that.
you want me to jump into why the Black Sibyls, how she lost her power?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that was the presentation that you put up first, but here it is. How the Sibyls lost her power. Number one, she taught her sons, and they call it masons. Like, I know mason has been interpreted as a mother and son, but they showed the etymology of MA as being um, truth, as truth and son. She taught her sons the truth about universal laws. The second reason why, deliberate lack of public knowledge about her purpose in history. You know, she lost her power because nobody knew the history of the Sibyls or anything about her so that they could attest to her powers. The third reason, there were laws preventing the Sibyls from operating. Okay. The fourth reason, the inability of others to comprehend their wisdom. And Tammi, I think you were alluding to also the original female has always been in charge. That was her role. And the male's role was to service the females.
Wow.
And by service the females sexually, that was their role, and not just one female. Okay. So a lot of times today, if say that is true, and I believe it is, then we have projected on our males a European interpretation of the roles they should be playing. Okay?
which we love and cannot uphold. It's becoming increasingly harder. Yeah, this is my man. Like we own somebody. We don't.
Well, I mean, I told Abuela when we talked about it, I do still I understand she's saying originally the man was supposed to service multiple women. However, I think I'm gonna go with the Western culture on this.
We
And
understand.
I
We
want a man to
understand.
just service one woman.
We
That's how
understand.
I have been raised, and I like that concept. But
We
Polo,
can't
Okay.
I know
see.
you biting your tongue. I'm ready. Bring
I
it.
second that. I second that motion.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now don't forget, I'm giving you the history.
I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, we understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure if we were born in a different society, still back in that, we would think differently. This monogamous idea would be foreign to us.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
And we are now under the construct of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
So everything has changed since
Mhm.
3,000 years ago. Everything has changed because of the patriarchal leadership. So the rules that these Sibyls were under couldn't fit into today's patriarchal system.
Mm-mm.
And this
Right. They
It's
wouldn't let
not.
it
has
in.
been going
They
on
wouldn't let it
now
in.
for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. Yeah.
So let me ask
Okay, there
this
was something
question.
else, but it'll come back.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, while you
No,
think
you go
about it,
ahead.
how does this Black Sibyls expand or challenge the narrative presented in When God Was a Woman about the suppression of female divinity in ancient cultures?
Can you break that down?
Not really.
That's what I was like. What was
Okay.
that? That sound like a
Look,
question.
not
That sound
really.
like a question from Chat
Girl,
GTP.
you
Okay.
already know. Don't call me out. Don't call
We
me
have to
out.
ask regular, normal questions so people will understand.
But okay. Let me think about it this way. Okay, did you find what you were thinking about? Since I can't think of a way to
Yes,
break this question down
yes.
for
Because I skipped around, I wanted you to know that 3,000 years before Rome and Greece that we've been taught about was in existence,
Mm-hmm.
Africans had built those structures
Mm-hmm.
and had set up the whole system
Absolutely.
3,000 years before the Europeans were even thought about.
Absolutely.
That's the part that I had left out.
And it's so funny that you say that. I'm gonna say this really quick. I was looking at something, and I was looking at one of the first explorers map, the first explorers, one of their maps of Africa. And when I tell you the Sahara was full of cities, structures, buildings. And now, I mean, the later on, they began to wipe some of that stuff off the map and made it look kind of barren. But I mean, it was an established society. It very, very established. Yeah, that's all I was just piggybacking off of what you said.
And another interesting thing that comes up is how they use machinery. I'll just say machinery to carve like things like the Suez Canal, to carve through land to separate that land so water could flow through, so they could separate parts of Africa
That's right.
from the original continent
Yes.
and label it the Middle East. Well, where's the
Yes.
Middle West?
And
Where's
that,
the Middle North?
and you
Where's
know,
the Middle South?
I saw the map before it was carved out from one of the first explorers over there. They had that had drawn a map. I saw it before they had carved that canal out. Yeah.
So everything we've been taught in school was from a patriarchal perspective, political perspective.
Western
Yes,
colonizing.
yes, to
Yeah.
take Africa out,
Mm-hmm.
to take
Mm-hmm.
Egypt out of Africa
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
call it the Middle East.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Another reason the Sibyls lost their power was reinterpretation from an African perspective to a Euro perspective. Number 6, another reason, deliberately overlooking their connection to the African culture, challenging narratives that diminish her importance or connection to the African culture, acknowledging of African Sibyls and her roles as important prophetic figures in ancient culture. So if they weren't given their props or talked about, of course they're going to lose they're going to lose their power. No mention of them today in Eurocentric curriculum. Okay. Oh, we can get started on the public food system. That's grades K through the university. Those public institutions were designed for mind control, not to teach you anything, because if you were able to think critically, you could not be controlled. So to me, these degrees are degrees only for the weatherman. Okay.
Well,
Based
yeah,
on
now
this,
to your point. Now
based
to
on
your
the
point on that.
reality, based on the reality that the modern day Western curriculum is a form of mind control. Research it. You can look at John Taylor Gatto, do the research, and you will understand why this curriculum was designed the way it was designed. Now, there's a difference between knowledge and understanding and wisdom. So we have been given intellectual knowledge, but if you don't do your research, you will not understand that what we've been up against is mind control.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
there's a book called The Encyclopedia of Mind Control by Jim Keith. All of a sudden, Jim died. But thank God the book was already published. It's called The Encyclopedia of Mind Control by Jim Keith, a wealth of information on this same subject. Chapter 4 talks about leave the children alone. That's the title of chapter 4. So that's a book. Anybody that's really interested in true education, they should have that book. Okay, another reason she lost her account. The importance being passed down to future generations. Her importance being passed down to future generations. Another reason, African culture being depicted as demonic by Europe and their Christian churches.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Another reason, colonization and the disruption of traditional African belief systems and spiritual practices. And the last one, imposition of foreign religions and cultural norms. After centuries of uninterrupted power, the Sibyls' temples and mystery schools were all outlawed with the advent of the Nicene, that conference I was talking about, Nicene Christianity, the Council of Nicaea, 325 AD, the beginning of the end being Constantine's legislation against what he called magic and divination, and anybody practicing, what would happen to them? They would be executed.
Mhm.
So that would stop a lot of action.
Had to
And
go
you know,
underground.
mhm, for people who believe that Christianity is a BC religion, the Nicene Conference proves that it is an AD religion because that's when
Right.
Christianity was
Hmm.
created.
Yeah.
325 AD.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even Jesus wasn't a Christian.
And he didn't come to establish Christianity.
That was a
Oh,
man-made
now that's deep
compilation
right
based
there.
on some of the teachings, but yes.
Oh, now that's now hold on. Now that is deep right there because that right there, it's hard for people to accept that. Okay, you're saying Jesus didn't come to establish Christianity. He was,
He
I
did
mean, you say he
not.
wasn't Christian. He
Neither,
did
both
not.
of them. He was not
Um,
Christian and he did not come to establish Christianity.
so how did it get well, you probably can't answer this question,
That's
but
a
I'm gonna
whole
throw
nother
it out there. How did
conversation.
it get
That's a whole nother
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, it is. And we want to finish talking about the Sibyls if you don't mind.
Go right
I
ahead.
don't mind. I don't
But,
mind. Go
but
for it.
keep in mind that the letter J and the letter C did not come into usage until 1500. How you spell Jesus? All right, let's go on. Uh, okay. The goddess Wajet. Let me see what time it is. Okay. The oldest article in historical record was the temple goddess Wajet, spelled Wadjet, in Kemet, which is the African name for Egypt. Wajet is one of the Kemites' oldest deities and was symbolized by a snake or a snake-headed woman. Serpents symbolize divine authority, royalty, fertility, creative life force, rebirth, transformation, eternity. And I just saw some rap artists, with the serpent around the neck, giving it another kind of immoral type meaning because they don't have this knowledge. They just don't have it. So the so-called powers that want to be, they have co-opted our music. They have co-opted those entertainers with money to project those topics and things they want to project. That's why you don't hear rhythm and blues anymore. Love your black sisters and all of those songs talking about the love of the black male and female relationship. You don't hear that anymore. The only thing we hear today is what the powers that want to be is the former Black Sibyl being depicted as a hoochie, a whore, and a biatcha. Okay, it's time out for that. And it is all changing. It is all changing. Any comments? And another thing they did, they changed the music hertz from 428 hertz to 440, that trap music and all of this music you hear, wham, 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 that music will create mental anxiety, hostility. And one thing Penelope pointed out to me this week when we were riding down the street, she said, "Do you hear that noise?" I said, "No." And then I said, "Oh, yes, I hear it." It was a white truck behind us just pumping this loud music. And one thing she said was, that kind of distraction keeps you from thinking. That loud music, loud communities, sirens every
So,
5 seconds keeps you,
Abuela,
yes.
explain the different frequencies, the hertz frequencies. Everybody may not be familiar with that. Explain what you meant by that.
There's a
Well,
rhythm.
you know, 'cause
There's a rhythm to music.
Yes.
There's a vibration to music. There's certain vibrations or hertz that will be very calming, relaxing. Then they can change that vibration to a lower hertz, no, a higher hertz that will make it very disruptive to the mind. And that's a topic that could go
On
another
and on.
time. Yeah.
Let me add to that too. So those hertz, they create vibrations because they do create vibrations. They go hand in hand. Those hertz create vibrations, which also creates emotions. Emotions create feelings. So it puts you in a state of mind that is either calming, like she said, aggressive, violent, loving. Just listen to the music that we listen to. When you listen to love making music, you ready to make some love versus, excuse my French, when it comes to a man and woman, when it comes to effing music, effing versus love making, there's a difference. When you ready to womp somebody's tail, like they used to play Bout It in the club, you remember how, or the song Tear the Club Up? You see how that affects people around you. So that's the hurt in the music. And it creates an emotional effect, which creates a feelings, which then we act it out. And it's unfortunate that our music happens to be the most violent, and the most lustful music at this point in time in the world around.
By
And we're,
design.
yeah, by design. Yeah.
go ahead.
Well,
And
that's all I
And
was
it's
gonna
funny that
say.
we're even talking.
So
and
she
the
was
Oh,
asking
that's
her.
good because because me and one of my friends was talking the other day, like how, like, sometimes stores will play certain music that get you all hyped and bouncing because they want you to shop and spend your money. So
Right.
I definitely agree. Yeah,
Yes.
music has a different effect on us that, and people are not even fully aware
Yeah.
of that. They just going with it, but you got to be mindful. It's a
And to
distraction.
speak how powerful we are as humans, even the tone of our voice. Because I can tell you, Tammy, I love you. I appreciate you. You know, and that will open up your heart space and put you in a whole nother zone versus me, you be yap, yap, yap. You know, there's a difference. So it even the vocal, the tone, the vibration. So it
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to say on the back of that, Cola, is that many non-melanated people cannot stand the voice of Black women. I know that. I experience it all the time because number one, we carry a different tone to our
we do.
voice.
We
And
do.
I think the vibration says to them it's something to fear.
Mm,
There
I,
are there are very few Black women that I know who talk like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." That ain't us.
that is so true. That's true.
I know it is.
Whoa. Oh, wow. Oh, this is really good, y'all. This is
Okay,
really.
Miss Sylvia, get back to work.
Now, I forgot that the Sibyls, another discipline that they created was music. They were the first to create music. Yeah. All right. While most people have heard of the Oracle of Delphi and are aware of the influence of the Nile Valley civilizations of Africa, had on ancient, no, while most people have heard of the Oracle of Delphi and are aware of the influence the Nile Valley civilization of Africa had on ancient Greece and Rome, few are that the Sibylline tradition, and I said that began in Africa, that was 3,000 years before the Greeks. Oh, okay, so I think we did say that. And Tammy, you said we had to be winding down by at least 9 o'clock. So I'm going to
Yes,
go
ma'am.
into like a conclusion. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Thinking outside the Western patriarchal box. That's what we're in now. The Western patriarchal box. Considering the current status of African women around the world, one could hardly be convinced that her matriarchal presence and the enormous influence she wielded in the ancient world has far exceeded the limited physical, cultural, geographical, and political designations of which Africa and her religions are confined today. And that's a quote from Mama Zigby, the author of The Sibyls, the first prophetess of Mama Wata. And I want to reiterate the fact that most of the information that I referenced today came from the book, The Sibyls, the first prophetess of Mama Wata, The Theft of the African Prophecy by Mama Zobi, the other book, When God Was a Woman. And the reason I didn't do too much emphasis on When God Was a Woman by Marilyn Stone is because she seemed to refuse to want to say that the Sibyls were Black or African. But the book has some good information in it. And the other
But can
books,
you share some? So, but abuela, so that we can address the topic that I put out there into to the world. Can you give us something about it, so that people can walk away with why we labeled that the title of discussion tonight?
okay,
Even
let's
though
do
she
it.
didn't want to acknowledge that they were
Let's
black,
do a
but can you give
review.
us something about
Let's do a review. In the beginning of the lesson, who did I
it?
say
Okay,
was the first God?
The Sybil, right?
the symbol.
So she did admit that in her title,
Okay,
When God Was a Woman. That's where she's coming from. The first Sibyls were God.
So she
God.
came from, that was the title of her book. She came from that, but she didn't acknowledge in the book that they were black, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
It
Okay.
just kind of, it just to me kind of skirts around the fact that the Sibyls were Africans, they were black women. But her other, just like most books, and her other information there is good talking about the Sibyls. But I like
Is
Mama
there
White
something else that you didn't mention tonight from her book that you can share with us? Just like two quick points to give us something else from her book. We understand the foundation of, but you said she said some good stuff. Are you able to share any good information from that book with me
I would suggest
that
rather
we
than
can
me,
walk away?
because I honestly didn't place too much emphasis on her writings for that reason, because I'm preferential to using the term African. So the only thing I suggest is go to Amazon and get the book and see for yourself. Go to Amazon, get all of these books. Don't believe what I'm saying. And Mama Waters' book is filled with other references to back up the information. And that's why I'm bringing the things to your attention, because I think you should go, especially as females, we should go purchase these books so we'll know who we are. Because we are the Sibyls.
I have something I'd
I
like
bring
to
Go
say.
my
ahead, Miss P, because I
Okay, quickly. Here in the Sibyls, it says the first prophetess of MAMI. I watched a video of a young lady who had the opportunity to interview Mama Zogby before she made her transition. And this MAMI is actually pronounced as Mammy, not Mama, but Mammy. And what that brought to my mind is that when I was growing up, my paternal grandmother never ceased to ask me when I went to her house, "Where is your mammy?" And it pissed me off because I thought of that word as very derogatory. I'm like, I don't have a mammy, I have a mother. But of course, I was very ignorant of this, and I don't know what my grandmother knew. But anyway, I said that to say this. A lot of times we are talking about things, but we don't know the history behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did not know the history behind the word mammy. But one thing I do know is this, is that during our enslavement, Black women who nursed babies for
Mm-hmm.
white women,
Mm-hmm.
Black women who took care of white children were called mammy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that from one personal experience with a white woman who told me how great her mammy was.
Mm-hmm. I can you believe I've heard that too?
I mean, to my face. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Tammy wanted to hear something from the book. So I ticked off certain things from this book. So I'll read this for Tammy. One of the things I ticked off, it said archaeological, mythological, and historical evidence all reveal that the female religion, far from naturally fading away, was the victim of centuries of continual persecution and suppression by the advocates of the newer religions, which held male deities as supreme. So
Mm,
she raps the truth. I
mm,
just prefer African perspective altogether.
yeah, yeah.
But she raps the truth.
And most of them are very hesitant about giving credit to the African for anything. Oh, Cola, when you were talking about how the mother sustained the baby through birth and all of that, I thought about this. during the time that Sylvia is talking about, I don't know if you know what parthenogenesis is.
Oh my. That's why I
But,
wish.
but
What's it called? I want to know what it is.
that's what I'm getting ready to tell you. Parthenogenesis was the ability of women to give birth without a male.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna read the full definition from I'm gonna read the full definition. That's why I
Okay.
wish Shelley was here because
That's why Shelley ain't here.
because
We knew he was gonna be here. We knew he was
because
gonna be here.
certain famous
We called it.
there's some well-known men, and one of them got King with his name. They don't believe that the female was parthenogenic. So the definition of parthenogenesis is a form of reproduction where an offspring develops from an unfertilized egg. It's a type of asexual reproduction where a female can produce offspring without fertilization by a male. This process is observed in various species, including insects.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
was the first female that we know about that we were told had a child without the involvement of a male?
I
You
mean,
know,
Mary.
Mary,
Mary.
Mary. Yeah, Mary. But I know there are insects that can do that, but I never knew humans.
But why would you think that an
go
And
insect?
research.
as I'm listening to
I
all this,
want, I want Paula. Go research
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
but as I'm listening to this, like I'm really thinking like Wonder Woman. I don't know if y'all saw the movie with all the women. I was like, there was not a man in sight, but they are gods and all that stuff. So yeah, I had to go Marvels on y'all or I think that's DC Comics. But wow, this is interesting. But Miss P, earlier you said there was something that you experienced and you were going to see if Miss Sylvia addressed it. If did
I just
she? If
wanted to
not,
see.
can you go?
I already did. I just wanted to see if she was going to use the term mammy, but she didn't. So I was explaining how that term came to me as a young girl, very young. My grandmother used to ask me, "Where's your mammy?" And
And
white
my
people,
grandfather too.
yeah,
Okay, I just
yeah,
wanted to be sure that we
they were
addressed what you
called
were
mammies.
planning to.
Yeah, the Sibyls were referred to as mammies.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay. Well, listen, this was some interesting information here. I'm like,
If
wow.
y'all trying to
So
wake up some folks, this was it. Y'all did it tonight. Y'all did it tonight.
There's some
woo.
there's some more videos on YouTube about the Sibyls, and just go put in Sybil and look at everything that's out there. It's not a lot yet, but it's enough. Yeah.
Get the books.
Okay,
Yeah. Get the
get the
books.
books. Get the books. That's what we've been talking about for the longest. We got to get this knowledge and apply this knowledge. So let us go ahead and start bringing this in. Um, Abuela, go ahead and give your conclusion and final words on the and final thoughts on our talk tonight.
I know we talked earlier, and I said, now don't let us forget this, but I'm inclined to believe that the Sibyls are still present today.
Hmm.
I'm inclined to believe that. And once we realize that we are a fractal part of Source, God, spelled with a small g, that makes us somewhat Sibyl.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
if you look at scripture, Psalms, I think it's 82:6, it says, ye are gods
Mm-hmm.
and goddesses, spelled with a small g,
Mm-hmm.
because we are fractal parts of Source. And if we embrace that,
Mm-hmm.
we would be care less.
Mhm.
We would command the weather.
Mhm.
We would command our health. We would command anything that we want in existence. That's God. That is the frequency of God and goddesses.
That's powerful. And
I
and that's the
say,
thing.
I
If
say.
people really understood that their true power, I feel that things could change. We could come together, we could stop. Even when you were talking about women being hoochies and stuff like that, if everyone really walk into their true power and authority, you would value who you are, and you would walk in that knowing, walk in that authority, walk in that power, and we can change the world with that. We can change the world. Somebody put in the chat, though, I want to read this. Great topic. I encourage those who start researching the truth. First, open your heart and mind so that you can receive and conceive what is revealed. And Kimberly, I'm gonna shout you on out on that because that's true. Because a lot of this information comes to us and people's minds are closed off to it because it hasn't been presented to them in a way outside of what they have been taught their whole life. So when people are closed minded, they don't receive this information because just like you talked about earlier, it could be identified as demon worship, devil worshiping, witchcraft, stuff like that. So this is definitely, if you want to go further in your knowledge, you got to do it with an open heart and open mind. Cola, any final words on our talk tonight?
It was a great topic. Great. Oh.
Great, great. Miss P, any final words for the people tonight?
The only thing I would say is that I believe Sibyls still exist on this planet.
Absolutely.
And like Sylvia was saying, we're all part of source energy. And
Mm,
it is through us. I know I grew up being taught that God knew everything and that whole thing. But the way I've come to understand God, source, whatever you want to call it, is that it needs us as much as we need it to express itself through us as these individualized expressions. It comes to know its full potential through Penelope and Tammy and Sylvia and Cola. It experiences itself as Cola in its own way and as all of us in its own way. And so I would just say the Sibyls are present with us still. And I believe that in the not too distant future, we're going to see a resurrection of that.
Mhm. I agree with
mm,
that.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I agree. I mean, Abuela started earlier saying that 2025 is the year of the shift, and we
Sure.
know that's a number of completion. So that's big. And somebody also Kimberly put in the chat, it's because we've been so conditioned that we don't want to receive the truth. And so even to that point, that's where people got to understand the scriptures say you should know the truth and it shall make you free. People got to understand if they've done all this to keep us, what you said, mind controlled, then they're not going to give it to you so that you can be fully in tune with the truth, aligned with the truth. They're going to give it to you the way they want you. What you call them, Abuela, the powers that don't be, or however way
Powers
you
that
refer
want to
to them
be.
as
That wish
the
they
powers
be.
that want to be. I like that. The powers that want to be. And again, I'm telling you all, the power is in each and every one of us. So definitely do your research. You know, we can change. Things can change. Even when she was talking about schools, how the school is a form of mind control. I think I mentioned it a while back about the video with Rockefeller saying he don't want a world full of thinkers. He wanted a world full of workers, and that's when the Board of Education was established. And that really was to keep people in that mindset of, you go through these years of school, then you go to work, and then you retire, and then you enjoy life. Or even to take it a step further, then they have you thinking, well, you really don't have to really enjoy life. You'll get your reward on the other side when you go to die and go to heaven. And I'm hearing more and more about, in some of these places where they have the suicide bombers, they gonna get 10 versions and something like that. It's just all these things that have been passed down in culture, that in society, that we really need to be brave enough to step back and look at and say, hey, is this really true? Is this really what was, intended, say, for you? Like, as Miss P just said, everybody is God express, source expressed in these incarnate bodies. So is this for you? Is this how you're supposed to express and give him the glory in this? And as he expands, because that's what this universe is always doing, it's expanding. So good information. So I'm excited to hear what the next talk is going to be about, next Wisdom Wednesday. I'm just, you ladies are bringing stuff, you're opening our minds, so thank you, thank you. So, as I bring this to an end, I just again want to thank each and every one of you on my panel, and also thank our man Shelly, who we knew would not be here tonight, and he did not prove us wrong. But we love him anyway in his absence, so we give him a shout out. And so, I'm just going to say, with much love and gratitude, I thank everyone. I thank my viewers. I thank the comments in the chat. And thank you so much for being a part of this. And if you are not part of our community, I invite you to subscribe. As again, we are here weekly at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time with new content. Also, support us. These queens brought some knowledge today. So give us a thumbs up and share this. Others need to hear this. Growth and expansion, elevation. That's what this is all about. So I do want to wish everyone a happy and safe 4th of July weekend. And also, if you're in the Atlanta area, we're going to do a pre 4th of July celebration over in Smyrna at Luna Maya. Look that up. That's from 6 to 10 tomorrow night. Gonna go hang out there and have a little fun, little dancing, just some good times. So stop by for a nice, grown and sexy vibe. So listen, I leave you all with this. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. That's by the
Mhm.
queen, the late great Maya Angelou. And my words to go with that: when life is lifing and knocks you down, always remember that you are powerful beyond measures, and always have the strength to get back up even when you don't think you can. You can always rise higher than you were before. It starts with believing in yourself. All right, stay amazing. Peace, love, and blessings. Good night.
Good night.